So if y'all meet somebody and they tell you to stare in their eyes, don't fucking do it. Don't do it. And here's why. I got a story to tell y'all. And I'm sleepy as hell, so forgive me, y'all. But, y'all, so this was, I'll say back in 2019. I had met this guy. He was African. But it was interesting how I met him because my tire had just blew. So my tire blew and I was waiting for roadside to come. So he pulls up and he's like, hey, he's like, what's up? And I'm like, what you mean? What's up? So he was like, can I help you? And I'm like, no, I'm waiting for roadside or whatever. So he was like, oh, baby, you ain't gotta act like that. And I'm like, I'm not acting like nothing. I was like, I'm just waiting for roadside. So he was like, he's like, let me get your tire fixed. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So he puts a donut on my car because I had the donut on my car, but I just didn't know how to change the tire. So I was like, okay, whatever. So he puts the donut on my car, and then we drive to the tire shop. So we get to the tire shop, and I need three tires, not one but three. So he tells this guy that's working back there. He's like whatever she needs, get it done. So he was like, oh, the front right tire is good. He was like, but the other tires are bad. So I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, could you at least fix the one that's messed up? Because I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I was new to Texas. We was making it, but, I was on a budget. So, anyway, long story short, the guy gets three new tires for me. I needed new brakes, and then I needed a battery because I had a Mitsubishi back then. So, to rewind it a little bit, my Mitsubishi, like at least once a week, I needed to jump on my car. And I knew it was the battery, but like I said, I was just kind of being cheap or whatever. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So he gets everything done. And I'm just like, okay, so I'm like, what do you want for this? I'm like, because I don't even know you. I'm like, you just stopped and you just got my car fixed and all this type of stuff. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. I didn't get the brakes and the battery that day. I got the tires done that day, but the next day, that morning, like literally the next morning at the crack of dawn, he was like, meet me at the tire shop. So because I think they closed at like 6 or 6:30. So going back to the store, he got everything done. So he was like, I don't want nothing. I just want to take you to breakfast or like dinner or something like that. I'm like, okay. So we go to breakfast. We're talking. He's cool. He's not my type at all. But I'm just like, okay, because I felt obligated at that point to give him my number because he just got me three new tires. And he seemed like super cool, and he actually was like super fucking cool. But it was just something about him, y'all, that was like, okay, y'all, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, going back to the story, like I said, he was super fucking cool. So, we go to breakfast, and I ain't gonna lie, like, when I say he was paying for everything, breakfast, dinner, we going shopping, eating. He even offered to take me out of town, and I'm like, no, I got the kids. And on the weekends, he was like, let's hang out. And I'm like, no, I'm like, we can't hang out. I'm like, because I'm like, I don't want to pay for daycare. Like, when I say he was paying for daycare, overnight daycare, like, he was just doing the most, like, the most. And never gave him no booty, y'all. Promise. Put that on my mom. Never. So we were just like cool. Like, he actually became like a friend. Like, he was like super cool. Like, anything I needed, like, I could call him at 10 o'clock and like, I want Red Lobster. They close at 10:30 type thing, and he's like rushing to go do it and go get it or whatever. I don't know. It was just like something about him that was like super cool. I feel like maybe it was just somebody I needed a friend at that time. I don't know. Maybe because like I said, I was new to like Texas, being the boys and stuff. But anyway, so to get further into the story, because I know y'all like, okay, get to the point, Ash. To get further into the story, what happens was, okay, one night we're in the car and we're driving, and something kept telling me no, 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 no in my head. But I'm like, why do I keep hearing no? Like, I'm like, where is this no coming from? I'm like, what is up? And so y'all know, like, I'm very intuitive. I'm spiritual. Y'all know I do tarot and all that type of stuff. So, and even if I didn't, I've always had an intuition, but maybe just probably never used it or let it help or guide me in the past. So, we're going out to eat that night, right? And so we're in the car, and he's at the stoplight, and he like grabs my arm, and he goes, "Could you?" He was like, wait, what was his exact words? Oh yeah, he's like, I think you're so beautiful. He was like, could you do me a favor? And I said, well, he said, could you stare into my eyes? And I'm like, stare into your eyes for what? And he was like, I just want you to stare into my eyes. You know, he's like, if you do, I have something for you. It's a surprise. I'm like, a surprise? I was like, no. I'm like, hell no. I'm like, no, because you know, you can, like, sometimes you got to be spiritual to know where I'm coming from. So when somebody like ask you to stare into their eyes, and I'm not saying it because he was African, but sometimes people be putting love spells on people and doing certain stuff, or they want to like tap into your soul and all this type of stuff. And so my head, like, I had an instant headache, like, no. So like we were like driving and I just bust out screaming. I was like, no. And he was like, what's wrong? And he slammed on the brakes and put his hazards on. And I'm like, no, I'm not staring into your fucking eyes. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm not doing it. So his whole attitude changed, y'all, that whole night. Okay, so that night his attitude changed, y'all. We went to dinner and he was like quiet as fuck. And so when we went out to eat, he was like, I'm gonna sit across from you. I said, no, you're not. I'm gonna sit next to you. And he was like, you're acting funny. I'm like, no, you're acting funny. I was like, because we've been out like 50 times at this point. Really not 50, probably like 10, 15 times. I'm like, and you never asked me to stare into your eyes. And so I was just like, no. And so later on that day, no, the next day, y'all, I end up talking to my coach, which I love. I miss you, Mary. She retired. So I called my coach and I'm telling her like what's going on. And she was like, Ashley, I am so glad that you did not stare into his eyes. And I'm like, why? And she was like, because she was like, he was trying to tap into you. She was like, he was trying to, you know, like put a spell, like do some work on you. She was like, and whatever he, you know, said, like whatever intentions he said or whatever he was doing, part of the ritual was you staring into his eyes. She was like, and he wanted to bind you. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah. She was like, he wanted to bind you. And I was just like, what? But I was just like so shocked because I never experienced nothing like that, y'all. So I had another person come to me and tell me kind of like a similar story. She said she was talking to a guy and he was telling her like, oh, I need you to stare into my eyes. I need you to do this. I need y'all to do that. And I was just like, wait, what? Are you serious? So y'all, I'm telling y'all, I'm not saying for everybody, but just my experience. And then like, I'll say like maybe like a week or so later, it's like I started to like him more and more and more, even though I didn't like him. Like we never did anything sexually, but I feel like he wanted me to like really like him. And I can just tell. And it was like I wanted to be around him and stuff. And I'm like, mm-mm. So I had to like snap out of that. I was like, no, because I only seen him as a friend. I didn't find him like physically attractive. I didn't find him sexually attractive or anything. And I just like, I would feel bad because he would do all these things for me, but I would still like do things for him. Like, you know, like just little things here and there. I had bought him a couple things because I just felt like, you know, you do stuff for me, I'm gonna do stuff for you. I'm not a taker, you know. But it was just like so weird. And so we just naturally just stopped talking. And I bet you if I would have stared into his eyes, it would have been a whole nother story. And I remember like a week later, like when I was starting to like feel like I liked him and I was like pulling myself back, he told me, oh, I thought you were the one for me. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? And after I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, that's because you wanted me to stare in your eyes. And I wasn't about to do it. So I'm just warning y'all. If a motherfucker say they need you to stare in their eyes, what do you need me to stare in your eyes for? Like, no, he was even asking me to FaceTime him, y'all. He was like, oh, could you get on FaceTime? I want to see your beautiful eyes. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love me, but ain't shit special about my motherfucking eyes. Is it?